So this is the XFUSION Microlite RL service video. To service your Microlite, you're going to need a torque wrench capable of 250 inch-pounds, your inline torque wrench with 12mm castle nut tool, hand driver for castle nut tool, 18mm crow's foot, a dial torque wrench, a normal hand ratchet, your eyelet torquing tool, 18mm wrench, air sleeve bullet tool, pair of pliers, 10mm shaft clamps, strap wrench, a 4mm, 2mm, and 1.5mm Allen key, a couple of slick honey glazed chopsticks, a seal pick, a set of calipers, shock pump, some Loctite 680, lint-free towels, your damper fluid, which is Torco RSF medium, some slick honey, and some alcohol. So first thing we're going to do is depressurize the shock. We're going to take a measurement for what our current air pressure setting is at. Alright, so we're at 100 psi. Go ahead and depressurize your shock. Remove travel ring. Using your strap wrench, remove the air sleeve. And in some cases with the micro shocks, this nitrogen chamber set screw will block the air sleeve from coming off. If that's the case, grab your 1.5mm. Unthread the set screw. And your can should pull right off. From there, go ahead and wipe the old grease away. Remove your top out pad. And then we can depressurize our nitrogen chamber. Use your 4mm. You're going to crack it, wait for a hiss, and then finish removing. Go ahead and pull the nitrogen plug out. We can remount in our vise. Go ahead and remove the seal head. If you hear hissing like that, wait for it to depressurize until the seal head is nice and pressure free. Unthread the seal head fully and remove from the shock. Spray your damper assembly off and set down to drain. You can then remove your oil body, pour the oil into your waste oil container. Go ahead and rinse the body and clean it off. Once your body is cleaned out, the best way to remove the IFP is a little bit of air pressure. And your IFP should come right out. Set your oil body aside. Inspect your IFP for any damage. And then we can start taking the damper apart. Mount your eyelet in the vise. Using your piston tool, go ahead and loosen the piston assembly. Make sure not to drop this shim. Before you go any farther, you're going to want to take an Allen key, and inside this piston stud there's a little bolt that holds this lockout plunger in place. You want to move it and make sure it is nice and tight and that it fully pulls the plunger against the piston. That one looks good. Then go ahead and remove your seal head. Remove your bottom out bumper and bottom out shim. Sometimes the Loctite, like you saw from the shaft, will hold the shim against the eyelet, and they can be a little difficult to remove sometimes. Lastly, we're going to go ahead and clean our damper shaft off. Make sure you get all the oil and grease off of it. Using our 10mm shaft clamps, we're going to remove the eyelet. Use your eyelet torquing tool. Give it a little bump and it should come right off. Go ahead and remove your eyelet and your shaft assembly from the vise. Now your shaft assembly has the rebound adjuster and the compression shaft in the center. From here, we're going to disassemble our eyelet. So take your 1.5mm Allen key, remove the retaining set screw from the side. Using your 2mm, remove the detent set screw from the top. Give it a little tap on the bench. And the detent ball and spring should come right out. At that point, the adjusters come right out the front of the shock. Go ahead and take your 1.5 Allen again. And we're going to remove the screw holding the lockout lever in place. The rebound adjuster and our compression cam. So we're going to remove our outer air seal. And then just above these threads inside the eyelet is your inner shaft seal. Remove it. Your eyelet is disassembled. From there, we'll go ahead and remove all of our seals from the seal head. And then we have to remove our compression shaft seal. Inside of our main shaft, right about here, is the inner seal. So we're going to reach in and remove it. There's our inner shaft seal. And now we're ready to clean, reseal, and reassemble. Go ahead and open your damper seal kit. First thing we're going to do is we're going to install our new inner eyelet seal. So get a little bit of oil or grease on it. And it goes inside of our eyelet. Okay. Next, we're going to do our compression shaft seal. Be really careful not to rip this guy. Okay. The reason we do this one early is so that that O-ring can re-shrink back down into place. Next, we'll do our inner shaft seal. It helps if you take a little bit of grease, put a little bit of grease in here. You can work your seal in, and then move on to our seal head. We're going to place our inner body seal in first. Our U-cup has a solid top and a hollow bottom. You want the hollow bottom to be facing the oil. So make sure you put it in accordingly. Next, we're going to change our Ifp seals. So go ahead and remove the quad ring. And if your glide ring needs to be replaced, go ahead and replace it. Going to grease the new seal. Put our new seal on, and we're ready for reassembly. First step is going to be to grease our compression cam. Slide on your rebound adjuster. And then for clocking of the lockout knob, we have our open position detent and our locked position detent. We want the lockout knob to be vertical right between the two. Like that. This can be reclocked once the shock is reassembled and under pressure. Go ahead and grease the two cam surfaces back here and the detent ball seats. Install that into our eyelet. Then we're going to start with our retaining set screw. We're going to bottom this and come back a quarter turn. This should set our rebound range as well as retain the knobs into the shock. From there, we're going to put a little bit of grease into the top of the eyelet. Install our detent ball, detent spring, and set screw. For our set screw tension, we want the set screw just level with the eyelet. And that should give us some nice clicks. To key our rebound shaft in place, you'll notice it has a groove with these 2 half hexes on either side. That groove needs to straddle our compression cam so that our compression cam will rotate and push on the compression shaft in the middle. So make sure you can see the compression cam inside here, the silver part. As you turn the lever, that cam rotates. So you want to make sure that that cam is going into that groove, just like that. So we're going to take our rebound adjuster rod, make sure we're keying it into place. Set it. Put a little dab of 680 Loctite on your threads. Little tiny bit of grease on this rebound rod. Install your compression shaft. And thread into the eyelet. Once started, we'll remount in the vise. Using our eyelet torquing tool, we will torque the eyelet to 100 inch-pounds. Remove from the vise. Wipe off any excess Loctite. Remount your eyelet into the vise. And you want to do a quick check. Using your 4mm Allen key, put slight pressure onto the rebound shaft. Turn your compression rod to make sure it's nice and smooth. And when you adjust your rebound, you should feel the rebound rod pushing up on your Allen key. And when you turn the knob back the other way, you should be able to push down on the rebound rod to make sure it's moving through its adjustment range. Once you verified that, you can move on. If for any reason you don't feel the rebound rod moving up and down with knob movement, or your compression shaft is not fully rotating, you need to go back and reclock your adjuster. If your compression knob is not freely rotating, you need to take a step back and reclock your shafts. From here, we'll reinstall our bottom mount washer, our new bottom mount O-ring, our seal head, and then a little bit of grease on our compression rod. Give it a firm seat and verify that the rod is moving up and down with lever movement. Then we'll go ahead and reinstall our piston assembly. Next, we'll torque our piston assembly. This will torque to 60 inch-pounds. Go ahead and unlock the damper. Make sure your lockout plunger elevates, as this one is. Go ahead and extend your seal head. Next, we'll install our IFP. Set our calipers to the appropriate depth. Set our IFP. Install our nitrogen set plug. You'll notice on our nitrogen plug, there's a squared shoulder and a rounded shoulder. We want the squared shoulder facing us, just like a snap ring. So put it in, squared shoulder facing us. Go ahead and thread your retaining set screw in. And this torques to 4 inch-pounds. Go ahead and place in the vise. Wrap a rag around it. Using Torco RSF medium, that's Racing Shock Fluid Medium. I'm going to fill the damper body. Again, make sure our plunger is extended in the open position. Pull our seal head all the way down against the piston. And then we can install. Make sure to only push down on the seal head. Do not push down on the eyelet. Reverse turn it until you feel the thread settle. And then tighten down by hand. Using an 18mm crow's foot, torque the seal head to 250 inch-pounds. Bottom the eyelet slowly and verify that our bottom out O-ring is contacting the seal head to make sure that we have the IFP in the correct location. If your IFP is too shallow, the damper will bottom on the IFP before it bottoms on the seal head where it's supposed to. From there, we'll go to nitrogen charging. Set your nitrogen charge for 540 PSI, 540. If your fill is successful, you'll see that the shock did extend itself. Go ahead and close our valve. Tighten our set screw. That was a good charge. All right, once charged, go ahead and tighten your set screw down. Then you can check the damper function on the hand dyno. Verify lockout. And rebound control. And that shock is ready for final assembly. For final assembly, we're going to open our air seal kit. Going to put a little bit of grease on our main eyelet seal. Then going to install our main air seal. Our 2 backup rings. Make sure the backup rings are, the split on the backup ring is 180 degree opposite the last one. Go ahead and install our top out bumper. This can then be mounted in the vise. Nice generous amount of grease. Make sure you're using Slick Honey or some other suspension approved grease. Then we're going to remove our dust wiper, inner seal, and backup ring. Make sure to not scratch the gland. Go ahead and rinse this out. Okay. We'll put some fresh grease into the two grooves. First, we'll install our backup ring. We'll grease our negative air seal. When you install the negative air seal, make sure it's going in the gland below the backup ring. Go ahead and work it in all the way around. Once that's in, grease your dust wiper. Add some Slick Honey to the inside of those seals. Once you have your air sleeve greased, go ahead and put your damper in lockout. Put on your MicroShock bullet tool and install your air sleeve. This air sleeve really only needs to be hand tight. Make sure your air sleeve is lined up with your knobs. And we can reset our air pressure and we're all done.